Hello folks, you're watching Deuce. Today is the first week of 2026, and I have finally come to the realization that the Curio Relic license, CNR licenses, are dead. You can still get them, but due to the lack of inventory, due to the lack of suppliers that sell that inventory, it is mostly dead. Which stinks because I've gotten a ton of enjoyment out of the hobby of collecting these Curio Relic firearms. So today, we're going to go over what a Curio Relic license is, what it was used for, and I'm going to reminisce about some of the old suppliers and some of the old importers and sellers that I used to have fun with while collecting these firearms. But stay to the end of the video because I'm going to go over a couple suppliers that are still selling these old firearms at a decent price. I'm going to go over their inventory. But first, what is a Curio Relic license? Well, it was an FFL 03 and it was issued by the government, issued by the ATF, and allowed you to buy certain types of old firearms, bolt actions and semi-automatic firearms that had a historical significance of some sort. And once you provided your FFL information to the seller, they could ship these firearms straight to your door. No FFL, no background check required because you've already gone through the FFL background check, which is the mother of all background checks. And back in the day, 20 years ago or so, these firearms were dirt cheap. The company I purchased the most from was Century International Arms, which is still a business, of course. They make their own AK-47s and they import several parts kits and then build rifles from there. But they were also importing a ton of old Mosin Nagants. Not only could you use your Curio Relic license to buy firearms straight from Century, but also crates of ammo. I bought so much of this stuff. This is still pretty much full. If you buy a couple of crates, they would throw in the can opener to open up these cans. I've got a video on that. I'll put that up here if you want to see me actually open one of these old crates of ammo. What's funny about Century is if you bought enough stuff, then they would give you free shipping, which shipping firearms, especially pistols back in the day, because they had to be overnighted, is quite expensive. So I would always find myself like 30, 40, 50 bucks shy of getting that next level up to get free shipping. So I would add a Mosin Nagant, because they were selling Mosin Nagants for 60 bucks back then. The best deal I got from Century was this pathetic excuse of an SKS. I paid $90 for this because it was completely locked down with cosmoline, with dried encrusted cosmoline, which is the preserving grease that militaries use to preserve their firearms and equipment. Well, this thing was beyond cleaning. It was really, really rough. The dust cover wouldn't come off. The action would not work. The trigger was frozen. I just needed to take it all apart and boil everything to get all the cosmoline out of it, and it was fine. If I'm shooting this outside of hot days, the stock weeps cosmoline still to this day, 10 years later. Unlike Century, many of the stores I bought from in the past were mom and pop style stores. And one of my favorites was Allen's Armory. I didn't buy too much from him, but I did buy a few things. One of the coolest was his P38 right here. We go. He got in a bunch of these Walther P38s. They're post-war. They have the aluminum frame on it. Buying a firearm from Allen's Armory was a very different experience. It was a very DIY style setup, and he had a website. You'd find the firearm you wanted, and you'd actually just email him. There was no click to buy. There was no add to cart, none of that nonsense. You emailed Allen and said, I want to buy this particular firearm, and it had the serial number. You give that to him, and then he'd email you back 2 different email addresses from what you just used. And the first email address, you put half of your credit card information in. The second random email address he would give you, you'd put the second part of your credit card information in, and he would combine those two, run them at his store's location, whatever he had. I don't even know if he had an actual storefront. He would not communicate back with you, but in a couple of days, a firearm would show up at your front door. I also purchased a ton of stuff from Classic Firearms back before big old sweaty Ben bought it. At one point, Classic Firearms had a ton of Russian Capture K98 Mausers, and I really wish I should have ponied up a little extra cash and bought a couple of those because those are pretty rare today. Samco used to have a ton of SKSs. They had every type of Yugoslavian SKS they ever built and sold. And here we go. I have one of each basically. And these are great. These are great. They're super heavy compared to a normal SKS. These weigh about 2 or 3 extra pounds on them. And they're very solid, very easy to shoot, very fun to shoot. I also got this Mauser. That's Spanish Mauser chambered in .308 Winchester. Also a good purchase, also very cheap. Samco was one of the first stores to shut down due to the surplus drying up, and they sold all their remaining inventory to Century Arms. Almost all of my old Tokrev pistols here came from a company called Southern Ohio Gun. And the acronym SOG also stood for Sorry Old Guns. And they were called Sorry Old Guns because they were very generous when grading something as perfect or near perfect condition. You can almost guarantee there's probably some pitting inside the barrel. I bought all of my old K31s and Swiss rifles from a company called Widener's, which is still around. It's in Tennessee, but they don't have any kind of firearms anymore. If you don't already have a Swiss rifle, I highly recommend picking one up if you can find them, which actually I know where they are. The prices of all the surplus Swiss rifles have gone through the roof. They're quite expensive, although at the end of the video, I do have a few options to still get these. And they are, in my opinion, the best surplus rifle you can still buy. The very last CNR rifle I ever purchased was this sorry excuse of a Carcano rifle from Royal Tiger Imports, also known as Rusty Tired Imports. Pretty much everything from Royal Tiger is garbage or overpriced. The last store I used to buy from is AIM Surplus, and the cool thing about AIM Surplus is that they still have a CNR firearms section on their storefront, which is amazing. That's my doorbell. 1 second. Well, that was a good delivery. I got myself a new Vortex red dot and a night vision scope to go along with it. So that's cool. Now back to AIM Surplus. I bought a ton of firearms from AIM Surplus, and I chickened out at the last minute, but I almost bought an entire crate of Mosin Nagants from them. They used to sell them by the crate, 20 rifles in a crate, completely packed in with paper and cosmoline. So I chickened out on that purchase, and I really shouldn't have, because that would be an amazing coffee table. As of the recording of this video, AIM Surplus has a ton of different options for Swiss straight pull bolt rifles. These are great. They also have a ton of Tokrevs for sale. They got the Chinese one, the Romanian, the Polish one, and I think the Yugoslavian as well. If you find a Polish one, the Polish ones are typically the highest quality. The Yugoslavians have a longer grip, which means they can hold one more round of ammunition. The Romanian version is pretty much an identical copy to the Soviet Union version. The Chinese one is also a direct copy, but much rougher in quality. It still works, but it's going to look kind of rough. Unfortunately, all the Tokrevs are chambered in 7.62 by 25, which when I bought these, that was like 3 cents a round. And now it's over 50 cents a round to buy that ammo. And while the 7.62 by 25 is a cool cartridge, it is not as cool as firing an AK-47 for the same price per round. They do have a cheaper option, that is the CZ82, which is chambered in 9x18 millimeter, which is close to the 9x19 millimeter that we all know and love, the 9mm NATO round. But 9x18 is the Soviet cartridge, a little bit weaker, a little bit more expensive than normal 9mm, but it's not as expensive as 7.62 by 25. And now I want to hear from you guys. I'm sure a ton of people watching this video have their own cool, fun stories of getting that great price on that great rifle back in the day when CNR rifles were plentiful and in every single store. When I first recorded this video, I had a different ending, a more of a hoorah style ending to the video. But now that I'm breaking it down for the next video, I have a different mindset on how this video should end. The reality is, we will never see $60 Mosin Nagants again. That idea is long gone. We will never see $100 SKSs again. That again is long gone. That's the equivalent of buying a house on a shoe seller's salary at the mall. That's just not going to happen anymore. But today we have something different. Instead of the cheap surplus rifles that we used to be able to get, we can get $16 ham radios that are fully unlocked. So we have that. We have $200 Glock clones that work great. We have $100 red dots for those Glock clones that work great as well. We have $600 night vision scopes that are fantastic. So we have given up the cheap surplus to cheap modern weapons. And I'm not sure how good of a trade-off that is. I'm just very happy that I got to experience both the old and the new. But at least we do have the new. Well, guys, that's for me today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a like and go subscribe. A lot more is on the way. Give me comments, questions, show ideas. Leave that down in the comments down below, and let me know down in the comments what your best surplus purchase was, because we all have that one white whale that we actually got a hold of. So go ahead and give me that story. I always love to hear those. And as always, you guys have a great day. See ya.